Welcome to the second episode of our podcast, The Balance Sheet. Over the next few weeks, we'll be speaking with several leaders, as we mentioned, about within the area of financial recruitment, sort of exploring their careers and how they've been inspired along the way. We'll be asking a number of hard-hitting questions, as well as finding out what makes the individual sort of behind this successful career tick. We are going to be talking today with Dom Stokes, who as a business we've known for a long time. Dom's sort of had a very successful career, grown up and sort of through the world of practice to start with. Had a couple of shorter stints, one in recruitment, then worked your way sort of through Twinings in various different roles, Twinings T, and now sort of into the wider ABF group. So, Dom, thanks for joining us today.
No problem.
So, firstly, most importantly, obviously, we're asking this question to all our interviewees, including our own Rod Hutchins. We asked you, sort of first of all, what if you could have a slice of any cake to go with said cup of tea you've got in front of you there, what would it be? You chose carrot cake. Why carrot cake, Dom?
It is my youngest son's favourite cake ever since he was little.
Yeah.
If you put a slice of carrot cake on the table, it disappears at phenomenal speed.
Fantastic. Good. Shop bought or homemade? What would be your preference?
I think baking's a bit of a science. It's one that I'm not particularly good at, so probably shop bought.
Fine. Good. Okay. I think this one is shop bought actually. We did for Rod, we did make a homemade lemon drizzle, but this one is shop bought. So we can have a slice of that afterwards, I'm sure.
Super.
Good. So on to sort of the real stuff that obviously people want to hear about. I guess first question for you, Dom, is sort of how did you get into finance?
Yeah, okay. I got into finance a little bit by accident, actually. Well, sort of by accident. I started my career running a pub, and I thought that was the career for me. It's great fun. You know, you have to just make sure that everybody's happy. If your customers are happy, if your staff are happy, if the kitchen staff are happy, then, you know, it all kinds of comes together. Mm-hmm. But the working hours were a little bit antisocial. And then there was one day where somebody had stolen some money from the pub, so the parent company sent in some auditors.
Okay.
And I just said to those guys, like, hey, this seems like quite a cool job, you know. What do? You go around investigating people stealing money from pubs?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah. I said, how'd you do that? They said, you have to become an accountant. Right. So I walked downstairs, slapped my hands on the bar, said to the locals, that's it, I've decided I'm going to become an accountant. One of them said, my accountant's looking for work, why don't you give him a ring? And long story short, that's where I ended up.
Fantastic. Brilliant. And obviously trained at Grant Thornton?
Well, I started training at this small accountant practice called Abraham and Dobell in Southampton.
Okay.
It was a nice little practice, but a little bit quirky. We didn't have computers.
Okay.
It was 2005, so there's no excuse for not having computers.
Abacus, was it?
I had a calculator.
Okay.
And a big sheet of paper, different colour pens, and so we're doing it all by hand, the sort of analysis of people's accounts, which it was odd, but it was a good grounding, you know, a good start in the career. And then when I got part qualified, I moved to Grant Thornton. Mm-hmm. You know, for some reason, the big accounting firms prefer people that wanted to become an accountant when they finished university, not somebody that went and ran a pub for a bit. So.
Good. Okay, cool. And then jumping sort of, and we'll come back to the bits in between, but jumping ahead a little bit, a lot of people we speak to say where it is a more global world now, they're quite keen to sort of travel with work and whatnot. And you spent sort of in one of your latter roles with Twinings, you spent 3 years in Thailand as the FD out there. How did you find that experience?
Oh, it was amazing. I mean, anyone who has the opportunity to go and live and work in Thailand, I would jump on that. It was such a good experience. I mean, the lifestyle from a personal point of view is it's amazing. You know, life out there is cheaper than life over here. You pay less tax. You've got beautiful beaches on your doorstep, wonderful like jungles to go and visit. And just from a business point of view, the role that I had was brilliant. You know, very, very commercially focused FD role, looking after 9 different countries, traveling around the region, solving different challenges in each different market.
Sure.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Were you based was that in Bangkok?
Yeah, based right in the centre of Bangkok.
Oh, fantastic.
So yeah.
They had some interesting evenings in Bangkok.
Yeah, I mean, it's the world capital of sky bars.
Okay.
Bangkok. So nowhere else has got the same number of skyscrapers, and the weather, and the liberal approach to alcohol that's required for a really good sky bar.
Fantastic. I've never been to Bangkok, but it's on the list to do. So comes with your recommendation. Okay. And looking at your career more sort of broadly, and I'll give you sort of a minute or so if you want to rack your brain, because obviously you've been very successful. What would you say is sort of the achievement throughout your professional career that you've been sort of most proud of, if you had to pick one or two?
Well, I think really it's getting that first FD role. It's something that I've been working towards for a while, and managing to finally put that sort of stamp on the CV and get FD status was a pretty big moment. 34 years old, very proud to have managed it. So yeah,
definitely. Okay.
Other than that, I mean, it's a string of things that you improve and you leave behind you. It's quite nice looking back and thinking, well, I made that better, and I made that better. Yeah.
It's interesting. They say that I'm a sucker for a sport analogy, and they say with sports stuff, I guess if you can leave a current role in a better spot than when you took it on, then that's a good mark. And I guess that's sort of what you're saying there, to be honest.
It's the only way to leave a role, really.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Cool. And then on the flip side, because obviously everyone has things they might well have done differently, potential mistakes they've made. If they're looking back on your career, without going into too much granular detail, if there's one thing that you could sort of change or potentially redo in your career,
I mean, I think, obviously I've made mistakes or things that I could have done better on the way, but it's a bit cliche. But if I hadn't made those mistakes, I probably wouldn't have learned from them. But I think the one thing that I probably could have been a bit clever about was getting broader experience when I was younger. So I very much focused on commercial finance once I'd got to Twinings. And then I went and did a commercial FD role, and I kind of neglected supply chain finance. And I was very lucky that there was an FD role at Twinings that was purely supply chain. So I was able to go and get that really in-depth learning within that area of finance. But I think that was quite a lot of luck that led to that, and I think the outcome would have been very different if I'd not been able to pick up that supply chain experience. So
good, interesting. And we've obviously had a couple of quite hard hitting questions there. So I guess one a little bit sort of more on the in the lighter sort of the lighter side of things. Obviously, work for Dorset cereal at the moment. What is the best breakfast cereal out there?
Without a shadow of doubt, the best breakfast cereal is Jordan's Country Crisp raspberry flavour. It is phenomenal. In fact, I was eating it long before I even knew that ABF was a thing. So it was one of those things you sort of enjoy a product and then manage to go and work for the company. I think that's quite nice.
Absolutely. Is that a staple for your morning routine? Is it a bit of raspberry?
Well, I like to mix it up with the other cereals. Jordan's does some pretty good stuff. Dorset granolas are pretty good too. So I've been a cereal fan my whole life. So.
You didn't realise this was going to be an opportunity to market the product at the same time.
Absolutely. And it's now on offer in Tesco.
Yes. Good. Okay, cool. And then sort of back to sort of more along your career then. What would you say, if you could pick one or two sort of skills or characteristics that you've either possessed from the get-go or something that you've sort of cultivated over time, if you could pick one or two that sort of helped you the most, do you think, in progressing your career?
Yeah, I think probably one of them would be a skill and the other one might be an attitude. So I think attitude-wise, it goes back to what you were saying about leaving roles in a better place than when you left them. So I've always been really keen to improve things and to sort of leave a legacy of improvements behind you.
Sure.
So I think that attitude is really important, and anybody can do that. You just need to take the time to sort of take a step back and think about things. And then I suppose the skill set is probably networking. which is, you know, one of those things people say, oh, you have to build your network, network, et cetera, et cetera. Really, it just means talking to people and being curious and getting to know stuff around their role, their business. And I certainly wouldn't have been able to make the steps in my career had I not been talking to people, and those people then helping me with my career. So.
Brilliant. Good. Okay, cool. And I think that some of the skills there that you've mentioned are quite transferable in terms of what we do and what a lot of different industry sectors do. Obviously, you had a short stint in recruitment at the start of your career, as you mentioned. Do you think you'd be able to cut it as a finance and accountancy recruiter?
Oh, good question. I mean, let's be clear. I was in recruitment, but I was the financial accountant for Match Tech.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think as far as accountants go, I'm probably quite good at networking and chatting to people, but that's relative to accountants. So I don't think necessarily that I'd be able to take it up to the level that's required for recruitment consultants to succeed.
Interesting.
But, yeah.
Okay, cool. And then I guess sort of last sort of question in terms of your career, how would you describe your leadership style?
Oh, that's a great question. I think probably I try to bring people on a journey with me. So it's about engaging us all in a common goal. And you know, I'm not a very hierarchical person. So I kind of feel that if we can all work together and all get energized behind something, then that's what drives the best results. So trust is given, but if it's taken away, then you can't come back from that.
Yeah, good. And it is hence the name of the podcast. It is a balance. Sort of with leading teams, and we're asking everyone we're meeting, and Rod gave a typically polished answer when we spoke to him. But for I guess for all those sort of aspiring leaders out there, that are watching this, how do you keep the balance between sort of carrot and stick, or in terms of being serious when you need to, but obviously offering encouragement as well, because that is a balance for sort of leaders in all fields, isn't it?
Yeah, it absolutely is a balance. I think we pride ourselves within ABF, and particularly within Jordan's Dorset Ryvita, about being a really nice business.
Yeah.
So we tend to be more carrot than more stick.
Yeah.
And I thought Twinings was a nice culture that was more carrot than stick. And you go to Jordan's and it's very much, even more so. Yeah. So I had to sort of adapt a little bit coming from Twinings and tone down the stick a little bit. So I think it's probably adapting to the culture of the business that you're working in. And just remembering that there's a moment still for the stick to be played.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, cool. Well, look, that's been really interesting, Dom. Thanks so much for taking the time to come in. Yeah, that was episode 2 of The Balance Sheet.